Okay, thank you, Miriam, for your phone. We're live at Siftach. Chodesh Kislev, Coffee and Kabbalah. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you to our artist of the day, Devorah, for joining us and doing this manifesting our dream healing circles. Anyone who's watching can paint your highest self, how you see your highest self, and manifest that. Okay, Chodesh Kislev. Today is Vav Kislev, and there's lots to unpack. So we like to do this class and uncover all of the energies of the month according to Sefer Yetzirah. And in this month, we're going to discuss a little bit about the name Kislev and the deeper meanings of that, the sense, the bodily sense of the month, the tribe associated with the month, the Zodiac sign of the month, and the letter. I said the letter of the month, right? We have it all on our source sheet right over here. Maybe I'll even link it in the video afterwards. Okay, so the name of the month is Kislev. Kislev, it's a cute, the kids in Gan come home with a little pocket in the shape of a heart, which teaches us like about the hidden love, right? A heart, that's a pocket. But really, the word Kislev, actually I brought you a source. It says in Tehillim, V'yasimu be'elokim kislam. They put their trust in Hashem. That Kislev actually means trust. And that's actually directly connected to the letter of the month. Every month, Sefer Yetzirah tells us that Hashem channels the energy of the month through one of the letters of the Aleph Bet. They are channeled through that letter. And the letter of this month is Samach. Yeah. Kislam, it means trust. Kesel, it means to trust. And it also actually means a kidney, I heard. So the letter of the month is Samach. Now, Samach, first of all, it looks like a circle, which is interesting because we were painting circles. A circle is also like a womb, like when you're the most trusting is being in a womb and having all of your needs taken care of. And the word Samach actually means lismoch, to trust, right? It means smicha, which means closeness, right? Like the blanket, like to be close to something. But it actually means lismoch, which means to trust, to rely, to depend on somebody. And the word samach actually appears in its meaning in Tehillim. We read it in Ashrei, but also Ashrei comes from Tehillim, Perek 145, right? Kuf memhei. Somech Hashem lekol hanoflim. So somech, samach, right? It's the word somech, which means somech Hashem l'chol noflim. Hashem supports all of the fallers. And if you look in Ashrei actually goes through the Aleph Bet, but it doesn't have a nun because nun is nefilah. And nun is to fall, right? Last month was the letter of nun, but we said nun is also nes, right? The nun could either be, but so we have in Ashrei the pasuk of samach combined samach and nun together because instead of having a nun, it just skips to samach and it says that Hashem supports the noflim, those that fall. So we said that in Cheshvan we have the month of nefilah. It's the month after the high holidays. After the high, we have a little bit of a falling, right? A winter. We go from summer and closeness and family and holidays to emptiness, to month of rain. So we have a little bit of a falling, and we learned last month how we can use that to our advantage. And in this month, we have the samach, where Hashem catches and supports all of those that are falling. So the word samach itself is trust and support. What's interesting, actually, is that that takes us straight into the astrological side of the month. Every month has an astrological sign. All this is Torah sourced. Anyone know the astrological sign of Kislev? It's in your papers. It's Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the image of a man, half horse, right? In this constellation, it's a man on a horse, right? Shooting an arrow. In Hebrew, it's Keshet. It's the month of Keshet, which means the archer, the bow and arrow, which is very similar again to last month, which was the month of Cheshvan, the month of the rainbow, right? So actually it's brought down that the samach, this is so cool, that the samach is made up of, that in some way in Kabbalah, the samach is made up of the half of the samach is the rainbow from last month that Hashem promised us. The rainbow was, we discussed a lot about the rainbow as that symbol of trust, that Hashem, that we're on a spiritually refined level, that Hashem will never have to destroy the world again, and it's Hashem telling us to trust Him. So it's that trust. And the other half of the samach is the bow of the archer that join together to make this samach of trust. The bow of the archer is also connected to trust, and we'll discuss that momentarily. So again, we have so how does that, we said, that Somech Hashem l'kol noflim, that comes to complete the Sagittarius, which is the symbol of the archer, which combines the symbol of trust. Okay, so now what does the archer have to do with trust? So that takes us into the Shevet of the month. The Shevet, every month there's 12 tribes, and there's 12 stones on the breastplate of the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. Usually we don't talk about it, but actually every month is connected to one of the stones on the breastplate, which is interesting because in the secular world, there's also a stone connected to every month, which is very much connected to that idea that every month had a stone on the breastplate of the Kohen. The stone of this month that connects to Shevet Binyamin, does anyone know? Amethyst. As the amethyst. The amethyst in Hebrew is I wanted to wear one today. The amethyst in Hebrew is the achlama, which comes from so the Binyamin is connected to the amethyst. The amethyst is achlama, and the Radak says that achlama comes from the root word of chalom, which means to dream. And the Radak says that anyone who wears an amethyst will merit to see dreams. So if someone has a hard time dreaming and they want to connect, they're trying to connect to their subconscious and their level of dreaming, then they should wear an amethyst, and that will help them see dreams, right? So that was really interesting. So the achlama is connected to dreams, and that's connected to Binyamin. So we're going to get to why Kislev is the month of dreams in a moment. Historically, let's just backtrack a bit. So we have Binyamin. Okay, let's stay on Binyamin for a moment. Binyamin is also, I brought a pasuk. I don't think I brought it for you, did I? About Binyamin, that Binyamin is the archer. Binyamin is blessed as being the one who has the gift of archery. And it also says that Binyamin here in Divrei Hayamim, it says in Divrei Hayamim Beis, it says Binyamin nosei magen v'dorchei keshes. They were the ones who had the archery, the art of the archery and the bow, specifically to Binyamin. So what did Binyamin have to do with, so now we understand Binyamin is connected to the archer, was connected to Kislev. Again, in Kislev, what is the Chag we have in Kislev? Hanukkah, right? And what was the miracle of Hanukkah? How did the Maccabees famously fight their war? They fought with their bows and arrows, and the enemy that they fought with tanks, with artillery, with weaponry, right? With advanced weaponry like elephants at the time, and the Jewish people fought with their bows and arrows. And so again, it's the weapon, and it's very much connected to the weapon of faith. And we're going to discuss in a moment. We're going to tie it together how archery connects to faith and how that connects to sleeping and dreaming as well. I think I dropped one of my papers, but I'm not sure. Well, okay. Oh, okay. That's just the source sheet. Okay. So historically, we have another place that also gets brought down that if we fall, that Hashem somech, Hashem holds us up and casts aside. So, okay. So we discussed all of the parts of the month, and now we're going to bring it all together into uncovering really the message of this month of Kislev. So Kislev, we understand, is a month of the miracle, right? Every month has this miraculous. Lastly, the sense of the month. We have a bodily sense that's heightened in everything. It's called the soul sense. And every month we have a physical bodily sense that's connected to our soul. That is the heightened during that month. That is the energy of that sense, is the energy that we can tap into that sense in our body more in that month than any other time, right? Last month, anyone remember? It was the physical sense of smell. But there's not just smell, taste, sight, right? We also have energies like joy, feeling anger, sexuality. In this month, it's the sense of sleep and dreaming. And that very much connects to Kislev. Kislev has a lot of direct connections to dreaming and to sleeping. In fact, one of the most amazing connections is that in the entire Torah, the 5 books of the Torah, there are 10 dreams at night that are listed in the Torah. There's a lot of visions and a lot of prophecy, but there's only 10 dreams. 9 out of those 10 dreams are read in the Torah portions during Kislev every year, even in a leap year, right? Or not leap year. They're read during this week's Parsha of Vayetze. They're read in Vayetze, Miketz, and what's before Miketz? Vayishlach, Vayetze, Vayishlach, and Miketz are 9 out of the 10 dreams in the Torah. Okay, so let's quickly go through the 10 dreams in the Torah. The only one that's not read was dreamt by a non-Jewish king, Avimelech, when he had the dream of an angel telling him not to harm Sarah when he didn't know that she was married to Abraham, right? It was Avimelech and Sarah, not Avimelech and Rivka, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Then, after that, all of the rest of the dreams are read during the month of Kislev in the Torah portions. The first dream is the dream that we read in this week's Parsha. Which is the dream in this week's Parsha, the famous dream? The ladder, the dream of the ladder. Oh my gosh. The dream of the ladder is read in this week's Parsha. That's the first dream. Yaakov has the dreams are actually often in pairs. So 2 of the dreams are dreamt by Yaakov. The less known dream of Yaakov is the dream about the sheep. That when Yaakov and Lavan when Lavan keeps trying to trick Yaakov out of the sheep that he's owed, Yaakov dreams about the sheep and the spotted and the speckled sheep, and that is how he gets the idea to put the stick in the water, right? So Yaakov has the dream about the different sheep mating and growing, right? So we have Yaakov's 2 dreams. Then the next dream is actually dreamt by Lavan, which is a dream when Lavan is chasing Yaakov. Also, I think in this week's Parsha, when Lavan is chasing, maybe it's next week, when Lavan is chasing Yaakov, and no, it's this week's, and he has a dream that God tells him not to touch a hair on Yaakov's head. Then the next, so that's already 2 dreams to Yaakov, 1 to Avimelech, 1 to Lavan, 4. The next 6 are connected to Yosef. Yosef is actually called in the Torah by his brothers the Baal HaChalamot, the master of dreams. When he was coming to his brothers, they said, here is the master, Bihine Baal HaChalamot Higia, the dreamer, our master of dreams has come, right? So which 6 are connected to Yosef? The 2 that Yosef himself dreamt, right? He wanted, and similar to the dream exercise we did today, we learned that speaking a dream brings it into fruition. So if you have a good dream, you want to talk about it, because when we speak a dream, it manifests it into reality. It makes it more real. So Yosef speaking out his dreams was manifesting those dreams. He wanted them to happen, right? So Yosef spoke his dreams about the bundles of wheat of his brothers bowing to his bundle of wheat, and the sun, moon, and stars, and all the stars bowing to his star, right? To him. Then when Yosef is thrown into prison in Parshas Miketz, after Vayishlach is Vayigash. Miketz, Vayigash, right? Okay. In Parshas Miketz, we have that, I think, that Yosef, when Yosef is in prison, the 2 ministers, the butler and baker of Paro, have dreams, and Yosef interprets those dreams for them, and then those dreams happen like the interpretation. And the Gemara actually says, and the Mefarshim bring down that they happened because of the interpretation, they happened that way. If Yosef had interpreted differently, they would have happened differently. And that's really connected to like the secret, the laws of attraction, that what we think about attracts that. And it actually works both ways. What we think about, when Gemara, it's brought down that a person that a person asked somebody who was known to interpret dreams, he said, well, what am I going to dream about tonight? And he told him a very vivid dream. And the man had that exact dream. He said, how did you do it? And he said, well, I told it to you. We were thinking about it all day. So that's what you dreamt about, right? So often the laws of attraction happens both ways. If we want to dream about something, we can think about it a lot before we go to bed, right? Often the movie we're watching before you go to bed is what we'll dream about. And the opposite as well. The way that we interpret a dream will attract it. We'll think about it that way. We're just speaking of not in a Torah way, and just in a logical way, or in a psychological way. If we're thinking about that interpretation, we're going to draw that reality to us. If the butler was so excited because Yosef told him he's going to be freed, his energy is going to draw that energy to him. He's going to draw that to happen to him. If the baker is devastated that he's going to die, right, then he will draw that energy to him as well. So that has a lot to do with interpretations, and that's the source for the Gemara actually teaching us about how important it is to interpret those other people. If we're worried about a dream, we're going to pause here. Dreams have different levels. So dreams are actually considered like a ladder. There's a ladder of dreams. There's different, just like Yosef's, Yaakov's ladder is the first dream in the Torah dreamt by a Jewish person. And it teaches us a lot about what dreaming is. So there's different levels of dreams. Some dreams are just, don't think about it. You dreamt about that because you were thinking about it before you went to bed because you watched a horror film, right? So that's why you dreamt about it. So most of our dreams, actually, someone once messaged the Rebbe. I heard this from Sivan Rav Meir, emailed the Rebbe. There was no, someone once spoke to the Rebbe about a very disturbing dream he had. And the Rebbe said in a nice way that your dreams go about what you think about during the day. So if you're a tzaddik, then, your dreams, take your dreams seriously. But most of what we think about is just nonsense, so don't worry about it. But, so most of our dreams we can dismiss as just what we're thinking about during the day. But if we really refine ourselves, and think more pure thoughts, and spend a day learning Torah, right? Spend a day thinking about holy things. If it's Shabbos, if we're on a higher level, right? If we're involved in holy things, sometimes we have a higher level of a dream that's 1/60th prophecy. The Gemara says that our dreams have 1/60th prophecy in it, right? So we do have some level of prophecy, some level of manifesting something even greater in our dreams. So we have different rungs of our dreams. At the lowest level, our dreams are just what we thought about. We can ignore them, right? On a higher level, our dreams hold weight. They have, and we'll learn soon that our dreams allow us to remove layers of the conscious mind, of the logical mind that usually confine us during the day, and allow us to access our subconscious, like Freud spoke so much about, right? Accessing things that our conscious mind doesn't allow, right? In our dreams, suddenly we can do things that our conscious mind wouldn't allow us to do in the day. We can fly, opposites can exist, right? So we can access things that are even telling us deeper things about our psyche, about our psychology, about things that we might not be aware of because our conscious mind doesn't allow us. When our consciousness goes to sleep, we can then uncover deeper things from our soul, right? So our dreams might have a deeper layer than that, and we even have dreams that are even much higher, dreams that can allow us to envision and manifest tremendous levels, right? And to tell those dreams to other people. Like, I had a dream and I want this to succeed. And then on the highest level, we have the dreams of prophecy, where God appeared to Tzaddikim, right? And they had dreams that actually told them what to do in the future, right? When someone appears to someone in a dream, we have many stories where a tzaddik was told in his dream, right, what to do, or someone had a dream of where to go find money under the bridge, etc., right? So we have different rungs of dreams. So dreams, we have to kind of really, we don't necessarily always know what level our dreams are on. Anyways, thank you to Sift Out for hosting and for their delicious tea. Okay, So where were we? So we spoke about Kislev. So now we're going to connect that all to, so now we were talking about the 10 dreams, right, in the Torah. The last two are the dreams of Paro that Yosef interprets. So it's interesting that only that Yosef interprets for Paro, right, and they also happened, like Yosef said, as well, right? So Yosef is connected to a lot of to 6 of the dreams. All of them are read during Kislev, so we see that Kislev has a very strong connection to dreams. Another connection of Kislev to sleeping and dreaming is that Kislev has the longest nights of the year. So even physically, Kislev is a time when we're dreaming and sleeping the most, when we have this, because the light in the light outside actually affects our quality of sleep, right? Light produces cortisol. It tells our brain to produce cortisol, which doesn't allow us to sleep restfully and properly. So actually being darker allows us to have connect much more into our sense of rest, into our sense of sleep, and to dreaming in a much deeper way when the nights are the longest during Kislev. Something incredible. So Kislev, the energy of the month is sleeping, dreaming, and also the energy of Nisim, of miracles, right? Because we have the Nun and the Nun from Cheshvan and the Samach are very connected, and it says Somech Hashem l'kol hanoflim. So we put the Nun and the Samach together, the Samach from Cheshvan, the Nun from Cheshvan, and the Samach from Kislev. We have Nes. We have this month of Nisim, and we see that the most two miraculous months when we celebrate the miracles in the Jewish calendar are Nisan, which is Nes, right, and Kislev, which is the month of the great miracles of Hanukkah, right? We're celebrating the miracle of light over darkness, right? It's all about miracles this whole month. And we actually learned that there's a big difference of the miracles in Nisan and the miracles in Kislev. They're actually opposite. In Nisan, the miracles are from above to below. The miracles are Hashem doing all the work, and we're being lifted up from where we were in a low state, right? It's Hashem just taking us. It's kind of like a child who's just dependent on their parents, who just does everything for them. It's called Isursa Dilatata. It's from above to below. Right? We spoke about in Elul is Ani Ladodi. We do the work, right? And then the miracle begins from us. So in Nisan, the miracle begins from Hashem. Hashem, it's a miracle that comes from above, and we're just receiving it like a child in the womb, right? Nisan is about birth, where Hashem is birthing us, and we're just passive in that act. And in Kislev, we learn that the miracles, we're not passive in the miracles of Kislev. We're actually active. What's the word I'm looking for? Active. Participants, thank you. The active participants in the miracle. The miracle is not just Hashem doing it onto us. We're actually producing the miracle. The miracle comes from us. And actually, in the story of Pesach, Hashem just removed them from Mitzrayim. And in the story of Kislev, they fought the war, right? They went out. They fought the war, even though it was futile. So we learned that the miracle of Kislev is produced from below to above. We draw the miracle upon us, right? They had to search and search until they found the jug of oil. It didn't just happen to them. They put in the work, and then Hashem responded with a miracle. So what is the avoda of producing this miracle in Nisan? So we're actually told that, first of all, in Kislev, the miracles of Kislev didn't begin a couple thousand years ago in the story of Hanukkah. The miracles of Kislev preceded the story of Hanukkah. Like we always say, from the beginning of creation, Kislev was intended to be a month of miracles that we produce, that we not make, but we draw to ourselves. And this actually began with Adam and Chava. I'm going to make a cliffhanger, and we're going to have an event, Bezrat Hashem. We're going to do a menorah and martini event. We're going to create beautiful granite menorahs and drink martinis, and learn about I'm going to learn about how Adam and Chava how they celebrated Hanukkah the first year. Some of you might remember it from previous year, but actually it's brought down that they celebrated Hanukkah. So the energy of Hanukkah, of light over darkness, actually was celebrated by Adam and Chava. The energy of miracles was there from the beginning of creation. This miraculous energy in Kislev, because Kislev is always the level of Somech Hashem l'kol noflim, but then that's the reason that the miracle of the Maccabees and the oil happened specifically in this month, because the energy of the month drew that to happen in that month, right? That's just a side note. So what is the energy of the miracles of Kislev? How do we have a miracle? How do we draw it? We actually learn that it comes from this idea of what it means to sleep and what it means to be in a deep sleep. So we learn that Kislev, which means to trust, let's go to the story of the Maccabees. Their miracle happened because of their trust in Hashem. That their trust in Hashem, the fact that they went out to fight, even though they were fighting so few, it was almost laughable, right? An army against the biggest Greek army in the world. They sent reinforcements, right, from Greece or Rome, wherever they were. Every year I research it, but I haven't researched it yet this year. Greece. And they were confident in their trust in Hashem, that they would win this war. And because of their trust in Hashem, their unwavering trust, that Hashem responded to them with a miracle and answered their trust with a miracle. we learned that our trust in Kislev, let me take it further. Also, they're searching for the oil, right? They trusted that even though they made sure to defile every oil, everything in the base of Mikdash to make it impure, because we're going to learn about this more, but the Hellenist fight was against the pure. They still trusted that Hashem will perform a miracle. They still lit the menorah. What was the point of lighting the menorah, right? With so little oil. They had so much trust in Hashem that Hashem provided the miracle on account of their trust. The story that comes to mind is like, the story of the boy, a little boy who wanted an apple. In those days it was an apple. Now it's a candy, right? The boy wanted this candy and their father said no. So the boy makes a bracha and the father is forced. He says a bracha and he's sitting there. The father is forced to give it to him, right? So the act of trust enables and forces Hashem to supply us with the miracle. That's pure trust in Hashem. We also learned that nisyonot, our challenges, come from the same word as nes. That our challenges, when we can look through our challenges and see that this is a test from Hashem, that we have to trust Hashem, that's when Hashem responds with the nes. That's when we have the nes. Then when we can break through that klipa, that veil, then we have the nes. So we actually learned that in Kislev, and trust, I'll get to how trust connects to sleep in a moment. But I wanted to, there's a big tzaddik that promised that anyone who, throughout the entire Kislev, doesn't get angry at all, because anger is a lack of trust, right? Anything that happens to us, if we trust that it comes from Hashem and that Hashem has only the best things in store for us, then we wouldn't get angry. Angry is that we don't believe that everything is good, that everything is coming from God. So if somebody can control themselves, if they'll only be grateful the entire Kislev and never get angry, then they'll have tremendous miracles. I forget which tzaddik have said it, that they'll have tremendous miracles happen to them in a Kislev. So it's from Rosh Chodesh Kislev until the end of Kislev. I missed it this year. I'm pretty sure I got angry already. I mean, I don't have to like even. What? I always try.
Start from today.
It's called the Kislev Challenge. We can start from today. The Kislev Challenge that this tzaddik made. But so in Kislev, we're in task. So let me get to this idea of trust bringing on miracles. This is a very Hasidic idea, especially in Chabad Chassidus. We grew up with this idea called Trach gut v'zayin gut. How many of you have heard that? Trach gut v'zayin gut. Think good and it'll be good. In Hebrew, chashov tov yeh tov, right? That's like a term coined by one of the Chabad Rebbeim. Trach gut, in Yiddish, Trach gut v'zayin gut. Think good and it will be good. So they said, what? Who says? Like, what if you think good? Why do you get to decide that I think good, it will be good? On what merit will I decide that Hashem is going to have to make it good for me? So, and is there one of the third Chabad Rebbe taught this idea, and there's so many stories about even my mother-in-law, who was, the doctor said she was going to die from third-degree burns. She was the famous story in the Chabad world. My mother-in-law was a few months old. She was living in Toronto. She fell into a bucket of boiling water that had boiled on the stove to do laundry, because it was 75 years ago and they didn't have laundry machines then or there. And there was no phone, so they drove her to the hospital. The doctor said that she won't survive. They weren't Chabad at the time, but they called the Rebbe, because they called their brother-in-law, who was Rabbi Chadikav, the secretary of the Rebbe, and it's a very long story details, but in short, the Rebbe told them to make a preemptive Su'udas Hoda'ah, to just make a Su'udas Hoda'ah and thank Hashem for saving your daughter, even though she's in the hospital and the doctor said that she won't survive, and even if she survives, she'll never, her won't function, any of her organs will never function again. And that Shabbos, they made this huge Suda celebrating this miracle that Hashem's going to make for their daughter. So that's the idea of this trust. Anyways, miraculously, there's a much more details to the story, but miraculously she got better. She's my mother-in-law. And when she was getting married, that's how their family became close to Chabad, or most of them. And before she was getting married, they were worried that the damage to her internal organs would make her not be able to produce children. So they went to the Rebbe for a special bracha before they got married, to ask if she'll be able to have children. And the Rebbe said she'll be able to have children. And thank God she had 16 natural births, 16 healthy children. And my husband is number 13. So Baruch Hashem, we're a miracle of the Rebbe. But the beauty of that story, and that happened to their cousin as well. Anyways, it's a long story, but the beauty of that story is that at first, the Rebbe told the Rabbi Chadikav to tell my mother-in-law's father that I'll mention at the grave of my father-in-law, like the classic answer, like I'll daven at the grave of my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe. And he said, no, tell us to do something, because his cousin had a similar story, and they told him to make a Suda Soda. Tell us to make one. He's like, okay, make one. So that's what happened. So celebrating and having that full trust. So he said that when they were dancing and celebrating in Toronto and banging on the tables and joyfully when their daughter is dying, people said either they went crazy or they just have crazy emunah, right? Emunah tzadikim. And it's one of the opposite. It's one of the two, right? But clearly their emunah, the fact that they were joyfully celebrating this full trust in Hashem, not just saying I trust in Hashem, but actually celebrating and singing and dancing when their daughter is dying in the hospital, shows that that trust was the kli. So in Chassidus we learn that it's not just, oh, you trust and then you force Hashem to do it, make it good. When we have that emunah, when we have that full trust in Hashem, that becomes the vessel, like the bracha of the child, that vessel that the kli that kind of draws the blessing into that vessel. The trust is the vessel that brings on that miracle. That when we trust that's beyond nature, and we have trust that in nature something can't happen. In nature we don't see how it can work, but we believe that Hashem is way beyond nature. Just like the Maccabees, their trust that even though naturally there's no way they could win the war without believing in a higher power, right? Naturally there is no way anyone could even find a way in nature for them to win. But when we believe that Hashem is beyond nature and Hashem could do anything beyond, even though we're limited in our mind, right? If we can trust in that higher power and that Hashem, then Hashem delivers that nace into that kli that we made. We made that vessel to contain this nace that's above nature, that's beyond nature. So that's what happened, I guess, with the story of my mother-in-law, in my opinion, my little humble opinion. And that's obviously what happened with this story of the Maccabees. And that's what the Tzemach Tzedek says over and over again, that when we say Chaka Fatzaingo, your trust, that is active trust, not passive trust. Not that you're saying I trust, but you're acting upon the trust. You are, for example, someone who's barren, whose doctor says they can't have children. An example, this is just my example. An active trust is saying, I know that Hashem will give me children. I am davening. I'm believing in Hashem that He can surpass all of what the doctors say. And I'm going to read parenting books. I'm going to prepare for being a parent. I'm going to make myself the best parent I could be. I'm going to work on my inner child work, whatever it is, right? It's doing that work, and it's actively trusting. It's moving forward with that trust. It's trusting to, like the Maccabees, and moving forward in that war, going forward with that trust. It's like the Jewish people walking into the ocean, even though there was an ocean in front of them, trusting that Hashem has got it handled, right? It's very difficult to have this trust. This is a trust that's not natural. It's completely unnatural to trust in something that we can't visually and physically even envision it happening. It involves us putting aside all of the things that our conscious mind tells us. And that is actually, trust is very much connected to sleep in this way. And this is why sleep and miracles go hand in hand. Because first of all, it goes so many ways. But in order to sleep, we need to have trust, right? If somebody is worried that somebody's going to kill them or whatever it is, they're not going to fall asleep, right? That's why at war, it is so hard for soldiers to fall asleep, and they have so many exercises to teach them, because when somebody is not calm, when someone doesn't trust, they can't sleep. And the level of their safety will affect the quality of their sleep, right? The more somebody is trusting, the better they will sleep. So their sleep is directly affected, their quality of sleep and how much they will sleep and how well they will rest. Their quality of rest is dependent on their trust. Actually, there's an amazing a parenting coach in Jerusalem named Miriam Leibowitz. Shout out to Miriam, who's helping us work with one of our anxious children to understand that in order for a child to rest and just to play calmly, he needs to feel safe, that his parents are always going to be consistently, stable and calm no matter what. That no matter what situation is going on, the parents are always have it together. That we're not going to be disrupted emotionally or whatever it is because our child's having a tantrum. And his trust, so we're working a lot on having him, and she's saying play and rest. A child's natural sense is to play and rest. And he can't play and rest and be a child unless he feels completely trusting in his parents that they're going to take care of everything, that he doesn't have to worry either. So it was just very much connected to that idea that rest and play and relaxation and calmness and sleep are directly connected to our level of trust. So that was the idea that's anyways, we're going to bring it together a little more. Brian has been waiting for a while to say something. What is it? Yes. Yeah.
What you just said, you need that information right now.
Yeah? What do you mean?
It will be good, we'll find out.
You're saying it's already good now?
Yeah.
Interesting. I never heard that. Send me the deets. That's awesome.
We just don't see it. That's it.
Right.
We just don't see the good right now.
Right. But I thought that was interesting. I made this up, but that smicha, which means blanket, which we use at night, is connected to lismoch, to trust, to rely on Hashem, to depend on Hashem, which I thought was just my own made-up thought. So take it or leave it. But I don't even know if it's the same spelling. Is smicha a blanket with a samach or a sin? A sin? Yeah, but a blanket at night. A sin, right? Right. But they're interchangeable letters, so in some level they're definitely connected. Just like arisa do, it's connected to the. And arisa sechem, right? It's connected to the crib and the bed of a child, right? So it says also that Binyamin, their ability. Okay, so Binyamin's ability to be an archer. We said we're connected to the archery. It's brought down that Binyamin's talent with the bow and his ability to shoot at his target was depended on his tranquil inner spirit, on his trust, and that it's a certain element of being completely letting go and depending, that knowing that Hashem is going to guide your target to it was Binyamin's complete trust that Hashem is going to guide their arrow wherever it needs to go. That got their arrow. That was his skill. So his letting go and sleeping and letting go of his own control and saying Hashem will guide my arrows to wherever they need to go was the key to their success in archery. It wasn't that they were physically more skilled. It was their skill and trust that allowed them to be better archers. So I guess that sense of the archer is, in general, the archers and the bow. We discuss a lot in Lag BaOmer more about the bow and pulling inwards in order to reach outwards. But we need to move inwards, move our consciousness aside, right? Move away from all of our outward thoughts, go inwards in order to further reach our goal. And the arrow in our lives, reaching our goal, is affecting another person, right? If we want our arrow, if we want our targets, if we want to hit our target, if we want to connect to this person, to this child, to our spouse, to our friends, if we want our goals to manifest themselves, if we're throwing something out, we want our things to be successful, if we want them to catch, we first need to pull back and go inwards. We need to realize that it's only going to go reach its goal if we trust that Hashem is guiding the arrow, not us. So if we can move inwards, move aside our own control, right? Move backwards from ourselves and let aside our ego. Our consciousness is our ego and our sense of myself, a sense of my I that's controlling everything, and let go of control. And when I can move back and then shoot my shot, and knowing that Hashem will guide my arrow exactly where it's meant to go, that's when my arrow will hit. That's when I'll have that miracles, and that's when things will blow up. I realize, like, so many times people try to, like, for example, in a modern day example, in social media, so many people try to do everything to make their video hit the goal that they want, 1 million views, right? They'll do everything, they'll time it at the right time, they'll do all the correct things, right? But it just will have a few hundred views, right? It's when they let go and they have no control, right? It's when they just put out a video. Usually the videos that go viral, no one can explain, no one plans for a video to go viral. Video goes viral when they don't plan, right? When there's no sense of self, when they're not trying to guide it and control it. It's usually that unintended thing when they didn't have it. And it's Hashem's way of showing us, the more we move back and move away and allow that trust to manifest, that's when you'll be successful. Not when you think you're in the reins, not when you're shooting with all of your effort. When we're working on our effort, right, we have limited results. It will be finite. But when we move back and move away and allow that trust and allow Hashem to fill that space, that's when we can be successful, and that's when we can have our arrows hit their target, right, in a very miraculous way, not just in a finite way. Okay. Okay, amazing. So now I want to move on and finish off with this beautiful idea about what Chassidus teaches us about sleep dreams. Because we're speaking about sleeping, having a sense of trust and letting go, right? And knowing that before we go to sleep every night, it involves trusting Hashem that He'll return our soul back to us. So we're going to wake up in the morning. So the more we can say before we go to bed, right? We say Shema, we say Hamapiel, Hashem, I'm giving you my soul, and I trust that you'll return it to me in the morning, right? We can sleep with more confidence. And that's why when our children are afraid in the middle of the night, we say, let's say, Biyatcha afkid ruchi, right? In your hands, I'm giving you my spirit. Take care of it and return it to me in the morning. We can sleep with less fear, right? We know that Hashem is going to take care of us. Hashem is going to return what we need to us. We can wake up with gratitude, right? And having this Jewish way of sleeping really allows us to sleep better, right? To sleep more deeply. So the Chassidus has a lot to say about dreaming specifically. In fact, they're in your source, in the source sheets. The first source I brought you, or the second one, in just joking, in the sense of the month. We all are familiar with this pasuk, right? We say this in Tehillim, but we also say it in benching, hopefully every time we eat a meal. Shir hamalos b'shuv Hashem et shivat Zion, right? When Hashem returns, when Mashiach comes and Hashem returns Zion to its former glory, He returns Jerusalem, right, and the Beis HaMikdash, Hayinu kecholmim, we will be like dreamers, right? We say this all the time. What do you mean we'll be like dreamers? So one of the simple ways to interpret it, or people understand it, is to say that it will be so surreal to be back in Jerusalem in its glorified state in the Beis HaMikdash, we'll feel like we're dreaming, right? Pinch me, I'm dreaming. Chassidus takes it much deeper. Chassidus says that when Mashiach comes and we see the world in its true reality, we're going to look back at Galus and say that we were just dreaming this entire time. All of this was just a dream, right? We're going to say we just woke up. Having Mashiach is going to be like waking up from a dream, sometimes a bad dream, right? And it's going to be moving from this dreamlike state. We're going to say, wow, like we were literally dreaming this whole time, and now we're awake to the true reality of what everything is, right? So on one level, we can understand that very much, that in this world that's the dream of Mashiach, right? I love that. That's gorgeous. The dream, like that, the true reality of existence, right? When you wake up from a dream, you're like, oh, that was just a dream, right? The true reality is the reality that will be when Mashiach comes. And we learned that Mashiach and Galus are that the times of Geula and Galus are very similar. It's just all that's going to be is a shift in seeing things as they are from God's perspective and not from our perspective, right? From our limited dreamlike perspective. From the true perspective, we'll see how everything is connected. We'll see how everything comes from Hashem. How every person is just godly energy. We'll see everything as it makes sense to be, and we'll be like, oh wow, we saw the world from such a distorted way, just like in a dream, like that was so messed up. We'll be like, that was messed up. We didn't see the true purpose in creation. Now we're able to see why I was created, why every step in my life happened, right? What my real purpose in being in this world was. It wasn't what I thought my life was meant to be. It was so distorted. I was taking on so many of these like messed up dream ideas from the world, right? The world is a world of like made up dream ideas of telling us what's important in life, right? Telling us which things to believe in, which things seem so real, right? They seem so real to us. Money, fame, followers, right? Popularity, likes, all those things, right? Like owning more materialistic things, those things seem so real, just like our dreams seem so real to us. And we wake up, we're like, oh wow, like that was really a dream. Now I can see things as they truly are. I'm so happy that I'm up right now, right? And I can really see things as they are. So that's another way that Chassidus understands that when we look at that when Mashiach comes, we're going to say, oh wow, we were really dreaming in the way that our perceptions of what is true and what true reality really is, right? When we see things from the true perspective as things really are. But dreams, even more than that, is actually a mashal for Galus, even more than that. And this is where it gets really deep. Okay, so we have this very famous, Chassidus speaks a lot about this pasuk, from Devarim, I believe, where we say Einon Movado. Einon Movado is a term that means there is nothing but God. There's nothing but Him. And the full pasuk is V'yadata yom v'shivos elevecha ki Hashem el hu Elokim einon mevado. It's a pasuk in Devarim. Chassidus discusses this pasuk at length to understand that there is no real true existence in this world but Hashem, right? But what does that mean? So we discuss this so often. There's a whole section of Tanya called the Shar Yechad V'Emunah, what it means to believe in God. When we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem is one, we're not saying Hashem is the only God. We're saying Hashem is Yachad. He's the only true existence. And that's what it means to believe in the oneness of God. Doesn't mean only to believe that there's no other gods. It means to believe that God is the only true reality, and everything else is not actually here. But Chassidus says, but I'm real. The world is real, right? If the world is not real, then why do you have to keep anything? Let's just, like it's, those people are like, the world is just a matrix. Let's just kill me. And we're like, oh, oops, like that, right? The world is real. We have rules to follow. So is the world real or not? So Chassidus understands it's actually one of the mishalim that's given is a dream, that the same way that we all exist, and the dream is kind of a mashal to understand how our existence exists, that everything exists, but only as long as it's within it only exists as long as it's within Hashem. So just like when you have a dream, right, it is very real. All the characters in your dreams are real. All the people in your dream are very real, right? But they're only real as long as you're dreaming it. The second you wake up from the dream, they cease to exist, right? There are so many things that are so real as long as you're dreaming that dream. The people, everything, what they're doing is real, and they're as real as long as they're in your dream. And when you awaken, the dream happened, but those people can only exist within your dream, and they're no longer real as long as you're not dreaming them into existence. And similarly, Hashem spoke our world into existence. It's like and Hashem as long as Hashem continuously speaks us into existence, we exist, right? But the moment, and we are real, we're real in that way, and very different. It says we're different than a dream because our dreams disappear, but Hashem's words are forever and eternal. So as long as Hashem speaks us into existence, we're real. But our only existence is as we exist in Hashem's perception. So the only true existence is within Hashem, right? It's kind of Matrix-like a little bit, right? So the only true existence is within it's within Hashem's dreamlike existence, within Hashem speaking us into existence. And were Hashem to stop speaking us into existence, we would cease to exist. Just like somebody in our dream, right, doesn't exist anymore as when we wake up, right? As much as we say, like, right, in my dream, I'm like, this person did this, right? When your husband does something you're mad at him about in your dream, but he doesn't know about it, you're like, but you did it, so say sorry, right? Or when when we're mad at somebody for something they did that they don't even know about, right? So obviously that feels real. And in real life, right? This mashal is really only used to understand how our only existence, our true existence, is as much as we exist within Hashem's reality, within Hashem willing us into existence, dreaming us into, or speaking us into existence. And that makes us understand that the truth of our existence is being included in Hashem's reality. And that's as long as that's really the true essence of all of our existence. So Chassidus helps us to look at that and to see that when we look at Galus as a mashal of a dream, and there's actually a song I grew up with since I'm little called Wake Up. It goes like this: Wake up, Yidin, from your dream of Galus, get ready to greet Mashiach, get ready to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu, right? Geula is coming swiftly toward last, Hine Mashiach Ba. There will be no more wars, no more reliant wars. right? It's a really beautiful song, but it was about how we need to snap out of this dream of Galus. So first of all, we understand that our existence within Galus. So why does it help us to know that our existence is like somewhat like a dream? It helps us to realize that so many things that we give realness to, that we feel are real trappings of ours, are really not that real, right? We realize that the only true reality is what Hashem wants from us, right? Is Hashem's intention for the world, which is to make the world a world of Mashiach, a world of peace, a world of connection. And all of the other things that seem real to us, the limitations that might feel to us, just like the Jewish people wanting to cross the ocean to receive the Torah, as real as the ocean seemed, what only is real is the word of Hashem. And Hashem told us to go get the Torah. So as real as this ocean looks to us, we have to step back and be like, the world is a dream, right? Is a dream-like state. That the reality is how strong we give it a reality. So we can now continue walking and know that the only truth is Hashem's word, and that the world and nature will go away and will disappear in order to allow us. And we see this in big ways in shluchim around the world. I say this all the time. We just move forward sometimes and say, okay, like there is no money at all, right? There is no building, but I do know that I have to make a school, and this happens all over in Russia, where I do know that I have to make a Jewish school, so I'm just going to keep doing it, and I'm just going to ignore the fact that all the logistics of the laws of nature of the world, because those things are not as real as the fact that what is real is that I need to make a school, I need to make a camp, whatever it is that's needed for me to make this world and vision of Hashem wanted it to be. And if when I ignore those details, we just see that they fall away, and Hashem just makes miracles happen into that trust, right? When we trust that everything that we need to just go forward with what Hashem wants from us. Shulchan of the Rebbe see this. Every single day, there are more and more miracle stories. There's books of modern day shulchan just going ahead of what they need to do to create Hashem's vision, and all of the logical things that are not in place just happen. I'm not just money, but like just so many things, like the government doesn't allow things, bureaucratic things where there's just no way, and they're still like, well, we need to do this because this is what is needed for the Jewish people of this community, right? For the Jewish people of this area. My aunt is a shulchan in Russia. We have like crazy stories of miracles. We even had one story since we moved here, where we didn't know how we were going to make rent when the Chabad house was in our house at the time. The rent was like that day, and my husband's like, we don't have the money for it, and he kind of just told the landlord, okay, we need till tomorrow. And that night, and like all the ways we think, right? That night he's like, whatever, we're a shulchan, we're just doing what we need to do. Hashem will fund. We just say Hashem's. Everyone's like, who fundraises for you? Hashem. Like Hashem's our fundraiser. We don't like fundraising. We're not good at it at all. We just make programs and help people and are here for people who need us. And we allow Hashem to figure the rest out. And that night, somebody who was visiting our shul, who was like a brother or cousin of somebody in shul, just called us and was like, I want to make a donation. But like most donations in Israel are like not very substantial, and he was Israeli. We're like, okay, whatever. And it ended up being like literally the amount of rent we needed was $1,100, I think, which was like one of the biggest donations we've gotten. It was in earlier years of our shluchas, like on the spot from someone we didn't know. It wasn't like, oh, we know this person will use this string. It was like someone we didn't even know. So you see that like we just have to go ahead and we're like, okay, great, we could pay rent this month. Most of the time though, Baruch Hashem, like Hashem fundraises for us earlier. But I think sometimes it's so beautiful to see like that trust and to stop and just have that trust and to not worry, because like I don't need to worry, because I know that my aunt and all the other shluchim I've heard before me never, they were never left stranded. No, even though like everyone's like, but how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know, but no shliach has ever been left high and dry without food, without shelter, right? Even though they're not getting a salary, no shliach is getting a salary. They're not getting a salary. There's no stable income, but I know that every shliach Hashem takes care of them, right? And so when we realize that so many of the constrictions and the limitations of reality are only exist in this like what we ascribe to like the logic limitations of the world, and Hashem is way beyond that. Hashem always says like, I'll open up the rains, right? Hashem doesn't work logically. Hashem brings droughts, Hashem brings floods, Hashem brings food from the sky, right? Food can come from the sky, and we still subscribe to these logical things, right? Like these things that like we're like, no, but we have to get money in this way, and there's only like a way that we could do it, and I have to do it this way. And when we let go of all of that and we say like the things that seem so stuck, that our boxes in this world are actually much less stuck than we need them to be. Obviously there's nature in place, and the world is olam, and Hashem put these blockings in place. It's the Helam. It's how Hashem hides himself, right? Because all of the avoda happens in this hiddenness. And if Hashem didn't hide himself, and we saw all the time that Hashem is just going to give us food from the sky, then where would all the work be, right? The work is going to bed and not knowing where the food is going to come, and having these laws of nature and still trusting and saying, Hashem, I see through all these hidings. Like, you can't trick me, right? Like, I know that these are just coverings that you put in place. These are just simsumim. These are just you putting a covering over yourself. But I could just move them apart and see the truth as it is. So understanding the world as a mashal, as a dream, and knowing that they're not as real as they seem, and letting go of how strong of a hold the limitations and constrictions of the natural reality are. And when we feel like, well, the only way I can get through this is if I like go to court and, do this and this and this. And if we can let go of that and just say, Hashem, you don't have to give me the nace in this exact way. It doesn't have to be the only way this person will get it. If I find the best doctor to heal this person, it's like, Hashem, you're much greater than that. I'm just going to move forward and, plan to move forward in my life and know that you will fulfill the blessing. Obviously, we have to make vessels for the blessings. One of the biggest vessels we can make is our kesel, is our trust. And then we make physical vessels, right? We go to a doctor, but we obviously know that the doctor is only just a medium for Hashem to send his blessing, and Hashem might send it somewhere else. We say, I'll go to this doctor, but maybe Hashem will send this a totally different miracle from a totally another avenue that won't even be through this. And that's so important to know. So, and one more message that we can understand from dreams is that in dreams, we're not limited, right? In real life, when we want to move forward, there's like a step of like, I go from here to here to here to get to where I want to be. In our dreams, everything happens, right? Suddenly I'm flying. Anyone ever dream of flying? They're like flying in their dreams. In our dreams, we do things that are completely not possible when our mind is telling us it can't happen. And in our dreams, our conscious mind and our logical brain goes to sleep, and we only have our subconscious, right? And we have opposites that can happen together, right? Anyone, you dream and you're like at home and you're in one country and you're in another country, you're on a boat and it's your mother, right? You're talking to your mom who's also your daughter and your aunt at the same time, and it all makes sense, right? And it all works. And then you wake up and you're trying to tell to somebody and you're like, so it was you, but it wasn't you. We were here, but it was also Toronto. And like, you get it, right? But in our dream, we have so many possibilities that can happen, and we can learn so much from that. We can learn so much about streaming, about seeing ourselves as our highest self, and not waking up today and saying, well, I'm going to be today who is expected of me, who I was yesterday, right? Yesterday, this is my level I could be on, right? Yesterday I was sick, I was weak, and I was tired, so I'm going to go with that approach and just go on the level of how I think I'm capable of. If we can let go of just thinking we're like on a ladder, like one step after another, and not just this infinite ladder that goes up to the heavens, we have to realize that our dreams are actually a bridge. I wanted to connect it to this week's parsha, that Yaakov's ladder teaches us that dreams are a bridge from the physical world. It says that Yaakov's ladder originated in the earth and went up to the heavens. And we realize that our dreams are a way for us to connect to the physical world, to the spiritual world. It really are a bridge for us. And from learning more than the dreams that we have. So I wanted to mention this, that much more than the dreams. I'm going to read this because this is actually something beautiful from Simon Jacobson. That more than what we dream about, it's the idea of dreams that we learn from, much more than actually the content. The content of dreams shows us fewer lessons than the act of dreaming itself. What dreams teach us is that there's a world far beyond our waking consciousness. Dreams are a doorway to your superconscious, like that ladder, right? A glimpse into reality that allows you to transcend your conventional and habitual thought patterns. They're a gift that the psyche gives us to wake us up to the possibility that there's more to life than what we see with our eyes. To reap the benefits of your dreams, you must live with higher consciousness, and you must reduce the presence of your ego. It is only then that you can transcend the limitations of the physical world. The reason that in our dreams we transcend and we do things that are impossible physically, right? We can time travel, time warp, is because our consciousness, which is our ego, is subdued, is sleeping. And then realize if we want to be able to achieve much higher levels, we have to put our ego to sleep. We have to put our ego that makes us in the driver's seat, right? If we're in the driver's seat, our ego, then we're very limited. And if we put our ego aside and stop holding on to what we think is true, what we know is true, and what even our ego, which is our fear, our guilt, our shame, all that is I, right? All the things people tell us about who we are and who we can be. We put all of that aside and go to a much higher consciousness and open ourselves to how Hashem sees us. This is actually one of the interpretations of Yaakov's dream, is that the ladder going up, why are the angels going up and down? It's the craziest thought. It says that the angels kept going up to see every person has two images, two visions, two forms. There's our form of us below, how we look in this world, and then there's how we look in the higher world, our higher person in the primordial man, in Adam Kadmon. And the angels were looking up to the upper image, how do we say this, the higher image of Yaakov, and coming back down looking at his lower image, and they were shocked how similar they were. Because most of us, there's Hashem's image of us from above, how we would be unharnessed at our highest potential, right? We always say that there's the soul of us before we come down into this world. How Hashem's envisioned us. Hashem's like, I'm making this soul, and this soul is going to be beautiful and light up the world, and this soul has so much potential, and I'm going to give it all of these gifts and all of these soul powers, right? All of the powers that we have to make it this unique soul that's going to accomplish so much. And then in this world, we have how we translate that into when we actually struggle with the world that we live in and the environment that we're in. Putting that into practice is what we're always trying to do. And we learn that there's always going to be an inherent gap. With every one of us, there's a huge gap between our greatest version of ourselves, right? And how we actually bring that out into fruition. And in that gap is where all the work happens, where all the beauty happens. And we're not supposed to be perfect, right? We're trying the best to be our highest version of ourselves and be right, and also to to fuse those two, but while knowing that they're never going to be the same. Yaakov was the first human ever to exist that was able to live out exactly his fullest potential. He was literally able to fulfill everything Hashem intended for him. He was the fusion of Chesed and Gvura. He was the perfect balance of bringing that image of Hashem had of him into physicality. And so what did the Farshim say, this beautiful teaching, that when the angels went up and down, they couldn't believe that they saw the same, that the likeness was the same. And it actually brings that Hashem hovered over protecting Yaakov like an eagle protects from the wrath of the angels, because they were so jealous and burning from it. So their angel's wrath was there, and Hashem was hovering over, like a parent's like hovering over their sleeping child to protect them from something, protecting Yaakov from the angels who were like so shocked and angry that this could happen, right? And jealous, this burning jealousy, this wrath of the angels that they wanted to like destroy him. Like, no, this can't be, right? And so why am I saying this? That what we can learn from this is so amazing, that when we can let go of our consciousness and we can see how great we can be in our dreams, also terrible, but also how in our dreams we can achieve things that are completely beyond what's possible in real life. We can translate that. We can see how much more we're capable of than we really think we are, right? And how much greater we can be. And we can look at ourselves at the way that we are from above, the way that we see a dream gives us a glimpse to see that Hashem sees us so much greater than we see ourselves. And we always say, I wish I could see you. I wish you could see me the way I see you, right? If only we could see ourselves the way Hashem sees us, the higher image of us, the full power of us. And that's what I wanted us to like also try and manifest this month in Kislev, in drawing, in thinking, in manifesting in our minds the highest, how we think Hashem sees us in our highest form, in the image of us, how Hashem sees us from above, how God sees us in this without any of the limitations of the physical world, without any struggles, without anything holding us back, without any shame, without any anger, without any fear, jealousy, guilt, right? Without any of the trauma that we've gone through, any of the struggles, how great God sees us in our purest form. And if we can try and tap into that image and see that image in ourselves, hopefully we can then, only then can we really look at others. And it's actually brought down that the Baal Shem Tov said, one of the Hasidic Rebbeim said, that we have to look upon every person in the way that he, and this was like something that was so foreign to me. I was like, it says, it's in Yiddish, we have to Madarf Kuchen, Yeder Yid, via Zayer is, I'm translating in my own words, in the Duknai Shal Adam Kadmai, how they appear in the primordial vision of God. We have to gaze upon every Jew and every human being as they exist in God's image of them, in the primordial vision of man, how they exist in their purest form. And that's like, to me, like how I felt like, I met the Rabbi when I was small, like looked at every person, not like seeing like their flaws or their mess ups, but seeing them in their purest form, seeing their potential, seeing their soul, seeing them as they are without any of the layers of struggle that we've gone through, right? Seeing a struggling person and seeing their highest self. And we can look at everyone at that, we can bring them to that level, right? When we look at our children, not as this kid who's just like a pain in the butt, right? But we're looking at this pure soul of God that God like put in my trust. We can now like bring them up to that form rather than pulling them down to the vision, right? Sometimes that we pull them down to. So dreaming can allow us to hopefully see ourselves in the way God sees us, and hopefully not in a bad way to shame ourselves more if we're not reaching that potential, but allow us to know how much how we're not as limited by labels that we put on ourselves and that other people put upon us, and that every day we have an opportunity by letting go of our ego and our conscious mind and submitting to the higher version to be less affected by the impositions of the world, of this dreamlike world. And let us all achieve our let's give us a bracha that we can tap into our highest version of ourselves, to be the best version of ourselves, right? To say, if I was the best version of myself, what would I do right now? Something Devorah taught me sometimes is I say, what would my highest version do right now? If I want to react, I would say, what would my best version do right now? Would I react in this way angrily, or would I, to someone who bothers me, what would my highest version do right now? So let us all connect to the highest image of ourselves, the highest version of ourselves. In that moment, it's such a powerful tool to ask ourselves, what would my highest version do right now? And it changes everything for you. So let us connect to the highest version of ourselves. Let us see ourselves in the way Hashem sees us. Let us love ourselves infinitely and know that we're people struggling, to be the best we can in this world that Hashem gives us, full of coverings and hiddenness and all of these facades that Hashem puts in this dreamlike world. And let us experience the truth where we can see, and the truth behind the dream very soon, speedily in our days. Thanks for joining.